This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today, the third video of our series of videos finding out which aircraft are better against each other in ACM or dogfighting. Today, two mighty giants. The F-14, in particular it's going to be the F-14B with a little bit of F-14A, the Tomcat versus the F-15C. So, two big heavyweight mighty warriors. Today's guests are from our competition team. We've got Bear, Penguin, and we've got Apollo. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
And beautiful Squiddle's just joined us as well. Say hello, Squiddle.
Hello.
Also taking part in the experiment were Kingston, Riker, who is a Tomcat specialist. Now, you guys complained that the last video that we did, which was the Mirage versus the JF-17, you said it wasn't cool enough and you got bored, and we do not want to bore you, so we've got a new format today. First, we're going to have a little talk about the kinematics and how we did this experiment of these aircraft, and then talk about our predictions. Then we're going to go run the dogfights, and you'll get to see them in 3D in DCS with all the sound, and you can't get bored with that, hopefully. And then we're going to go through each one as well with the TAC view and talk about the actual kinematics, the actual science of it. And then at the end, when we have all the results, we will find out which is the better dogfighter. As ever, 20 dogfights will be run. You will only see 6 because, again, I don't want to bore you. First, let's get some data about these aircraft. Now, we always say this as a disclaimer. DCS is not real life. It doesn't match everything perfectly. It's the best we can get as a civilian, but still there are some small differences between it and real life. So, here we have the various parameters of the kinematics of the two planes in question as measured as best we can in DCS World. Let's start. Low altitude speed. I personally think that's quite relevant in some cases. F-14B has the edge here at Mach 1.31 with its wings back. F-15C not far behind at Mach 1.24. High level sustained altitude completely irrelevant today, but just for fun, humour me, F-15C is the best at Mach 2.606, at which point its face starts burning off, and the F-14B at Mach 2.35 we've clocked it. Low altitude acceleration, I would consider this pretty important. Got an F-15C at 15.1 seconds, which is very fast to do that there. An F-14B much slower. We think it might be something to do with its drag, its high drag levels with its wings out, but I stand to be corrected. A full 5 seconds, nearly 5 seconds slower, so much slower accelerating than the F-15. Same test, but at high altitude. F-15C 21 seconds, F-14B 25 seconds, so not as bad, but still 4 seconds slower. Climb rate, I mean, I would consider this quite important. This is climb rate from standstill QRA to 20,000 feet. F-15C, 59 seconds. F-14B, 5 seconds behind. Climb rate from a 600 knot start, 25 seconds for the F-15, 27 seconds for the F-14, so superior F-15 again. Max sustained turn rate with ACM gas and drag index equals 0. This is an important one. F-15C, I'm going to go here, quite fast, so about 400 knots, about 410 average, can do 19 degrees per second. That's not particularly good, but it is a big, heavy fighter. It's not really that much of a rate fighter. The F-14B is different. Now, this is with full flaps. You can't do full flaps anymore. This was done a few months ago. You can only now fly with, what is it called, maneuver flaps at max. So it's going to be slightly less than this at the Tomcat with the maneuver flaps. Probably 22 or 23. I haven't tested it yet, but it's still a lot more than the F-15. Much slower note. You're not going to be able to do this fast because this is wings out turning. So it can be much faster, and that may or may not come into play. I suspect it probably will, but we'll see. Max sustainable angle of attack with 10% gas. F-15C can sustain 22 degrees per second. I can't remember if that's limiter or not, but that's what it can sustain at 220 knots gas. The F-14B, with or without flaps, can do 20. That's much less. It can't sustain the alpha like the F-15. Max sustained altitude of no relevance at all, 71,000 feet and 67,000 feet. Roll rate, very important. So ailerons only. I know F-14 doesn't have ailerons, but you know what I mean. Side stick only. 205 degrees per second at 300 knots in the F-15, which is very good. F-14B, probably the worst plane there is out there, at 300 knots at 110 degrees per second. Absolutely terrible roll rate. Aileron only, 600 knots. We've got 250 degrees per second in the F-15. Amazing. F-15 is a bit better because its wings have gone back, but it's still limited and pretty terrible at 140 degrees per second. And finally for today, aileron and rudder. F-15C, 265 degrees per second, just out of this world. F-14B with wings back, pretty terrible at 160 degrees per second. Those are the kinematics. Apart from two, the F-15 is thrashing. Apart from that turn rate, which is an important one. Guys, any notes on those kinematic figures?
Can't dispute them. The first 3 fights that we did, guns only, we did use the F-14A, and then everything else is done with the F-14B.
My joke.
The stats would be slightly different with the A.
Yep, that's all fine. Absolutely, and I agree, it will be significantly less.
The standard merge rules are merge at 20,000 between 400 and 450 knots. No firing before the first merge, and because we know it's guns only, we can go for the choice tactic for guns only. We don't have to worry about Fox 2s.
And let's look back at the TAC view. We're going to merge. We've got Penguin here at Mach 0.95 and Bear 0.85 in the F-14A. So faster in the F-15. This is guns. Yes, this is guns only. Okay. So they're both lateral turns. Have a quick look at those turn rates. 17 degrees per second, 15 degrees per second. Favouring the Tomcat so far.
This was the first time I'd flown the F-15A, F-14A.
Ah, it's a bit of a widowmaker, so I can't see it going very well for you.
So it's, yeah.
I mean, the immediate problem you're going to find in this, maybe not quite this position here. This is lift vector fighting, obviously, but if about 45 degrees up, the biggest problem I have with this is that weapon grade A bow, really thick A bow. It's almost impossible to see around it, and that's the main reason I struggle to dogfight in this.
I 100% agree with you. The viz outside of the Tomcat is very difficult. Keeping track. I think that's why they have a Rio.
Roger. I mean, so far the fight has gone towards the F-14A. We've had superior turn rate all the way around, and we've got our... No, actually, it's about equal. I scratch that. It's about equal. You're going to get bore on. Both got bore on at the same time. Okay. There's more speed has been kept by the F-15, but there's not a vast amount in it. Oh, I think there was a kill there. Was that a kill on that pass, or is it just TAC view being said?
There was definitely hits.
Right. Okay. I mean, that was just a head-on. And head-on's always 50-50 with guns, isn't it, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it wasn't enough to kill, but it did cause definitely hits.
Roger. Penguin's gone down. Bear's gone up. Both have sustained excellent speed. F-15's turn just much faster there. So Bear's figuring out now the delights of using an F-14A. It's something for an experienced pilot of an F-14, really, isn't it? Because it's not easy to do.
Absolutely.
He's not going to get his nose round on time. The F-15's got all the time in the world to line up a little beautiful... Oh, we just missed. And he's going to get on a 6 from that pretty easily, I think. And he has. Only thing the Tomcat's got is a lot of speed over the F-15. And the F-15 appears to... Oh, he's dead. That's why. Right. It was dead. Simple as that. Must have hit him. It was just a solid thrashing. It was fair. It was equal until... To be honest, though, there was nothing really in it for the F-15. It was, like I said, they both got their nose round at the same time. And it was a 50-50 which one got hit. And it just so happens the F-14 got hit on the head-to-head. Regards gunnery, they've got the same gun. I find the F-15 much easier to aim. Would you guys agree that or not?
The pipper in the F-15 has got to be the best or the easiest pipper, most accurate pipper in the game. It's so accurate in terms of if you get it on the mark, it's going to hit the mark.
Roger. I mean, I've obviously never flown a real F-15. I've personally assumed that that's unrealistic in that it's so perfect 60 frames a second and smooth. Do you know what I mean? When you know as well as I do, 80s planes weren't like that. They're horrendous.
It's probably a lot more. The F-15's gun sight is probably identical, at least in terms of the refresh rate and how it feels to like the 16 and the 18.
Right, which is nastier.
Yeah, it's a little bit more fidgety and it kind of
Yeah.
jumps around occasionally because the radar is making computation.
Right, and because these planes don't have AMD 5900s in like we do, they've got horrendous old 086s. You know,
Well,
doing
the
calculations.
newer ones have.
This ain't new though.
updated.
This ain't new, Squirrel.
Yeah.
This is a 80s F-15C. So
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, then in this case, it's probably way too good.
yeah, that's how it is. Though. That's how it is.
So-
It's F-63. So you must suck it up. So Penguin in the F-15. At this point, we bring Riker from the Satel Group ETF in, who is a bit more of a specialist in that he spends a lot more time in the F-14, and we've done that to make sure that we do the F-14 justice. 400 knots from the F-14, 420 for Penguin in the F-15. We have a merge. Is this guns only? It is guns only. Because it is guns only, we have the ability to go over the top. We've not got to worry about... I suppose you can go over the top with missiles as well, but it's safer to go over the top. A really quick turn from the F-15 there. I saw 23 degrees per second. I mean, he's going to stall himself out, but I'm going to go just back and watch that. So let's just watch this turn rate and radius here from the F-15. So he's just full aft sticker, basically. 21, 22, so he's getting around a circle.
Cobra.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. This is me completely messing up here.
I mean, this is the problem with this is, although it looks super cool, he's now stalled himself, right? So this is going to be interesting trying to get back. So he's got his ball sight around really quick, but he's just falling out of the sky now. Hey, look, he is falling out of the sky. That's so funny. But hey, we'll see.
Where the thrust comes in.
This is where the mighty power, this thing will just stand on its end and accelerate like a rocket. It's ridiculous. And he's managed to keep his nose on him, which is quite impressive. And he was doing all this at 100 knots, look. As ridiculous as it sounds. The F-14 is just doing a more traditional Riker control. And I'd say Penguin's got away with that one at 90 knots, 80 knots.
That reaction was almost like how it would be if you just happened to stumble across an enemy aircraft.
Roger. Yeah, just like full
Get a
aft stick.
frightened, like, oh, panic mode, let's get it around, forgetting everything else in the book.
Mm-hmm. And somehow has managed to get on his tail. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen that maneuver before, what Penguin just did. He seems to have thrust vectored his way to success there, and he's now solidly on that Tomcat 6.
Flightless birds need something up their sleeve.
Okay, they're both around 200 knots.
The F-15 is huge. It's got a
Well, they're
lot
both
of
big.
lifting surface.
They're
Yeah,
both
they're both big, but people underestimate the F-15's ability to fly at low speed. That's
Yep.
what I'm saying. It's so big, and it generates a lot of lift. It's not the F-14 in terms of lift, but the F-14 also weighs quite significantly more and has less thrust.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's just chewed him. Yeah, it's chewed him apart. Okay, very good.
oh my gosh.
Okay, guys. So, what do you want to take from that, if anything?
It seems to me that there is a small amount of BFM error going on here, which is Penguin's opponent would have done good to recognize that Penguin was stalling his plane, trying to get like a super tiny turn circle, basically getting inside the F-14's turn, pulling extremely high alpha. Even right here, I mean, it sucks for Riker that he's also slow, but Penguin is vertical at 130 knots. There's on the next merge, or when Penguin gets even slower, you will see like there is no reason to recommit. What you want to do when you see your opponent stalling, oh, right here, look at this. Here you can just start pulling into your opponent and getting angles because Penguin has no control on this plane. Right.
Oh, with that thing you do, it's crazy. The F-15.
Yeah, but you can't go anywhere.
You can point the nose, but you can't maneuver, essentially.
So what Riker should do here is just start trying to maneuver to get around on the 6. Let's see what he does. He's gone back vertical, pulling directly into you, which is now he's bleeding off all of his speed. He just basically put you behind him, and that was just not a very good choice, as you can see, because you had no ability to actually get behind him.
Yeah,
right?
I think when he went
you had
high,
no energy. Yeah, he should have just probably started getting into a turn using his energy.
Yeah, he should have stayed like and extended out, shouldn't he? And then rated back rounds.
Yeah.
That might have been
you can reset the fight. You know, there is when you have these kind of situations, it's better maybe to get into a neutral posture than it is to try to go straight back on the offense, because then you end up making a mistake and the guy gets right behind you.
It's amazing the control the F-15 had here at 90 knots, though. I mean, if that was the F-14, it would just go into a flat spin. It does every time. This thing, he just keeps his nose on him almost. It's amazing. Just drops down on him.
Yeah, just completely cut the throttle and then just full forward and stick.
Might be worth mentioning that defensive error on the part of the 14 there might have been a result of the adverse roll of the Tomcat. 15 doesn't do that. The Tomcat takes some skill to handle that, but
Really does, yeah.
probably get even experienced pilots, and that's another disadvantage of the Tomcat, I think.
The F-14 is definitely harder to control than the F-15. There's no doubt about that. But one's characteristic of its maneuvering, I guess you could say, is not going to determine the fact that he was maneuvering the plane into the wrong position.
So if you look back at that moment where he basically puts the 15 behind him. If you look back,
A little bit further back.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
So let me just try and figure out where we are.
The first time.
Let me go back a bit.
Yeah, the first time Penguin gets on his 6.
Okay. So they're both head on here, and Penguin's stalling out.
Yeah, when the Tomcat's coming back up, he looks like he's trying to turn into Penguin, but then rolls away from him.
It's poor energy management, I think, on both sides. But I think this might have been Penguin's game plan. So
yeah, because it doesn't handle at all at high altitude, the 14, especially when you're that slow. It'll just want to throw you out the sky.
Yeah, you see that?
Plane Apollo.
He rolls out a little bit and then he rolls back in. Could have been that.
I think that was
I'm not sure.
Looks like he's trying to jink a little bit.
Well, potentially that too. But I had that happen to me when I was flying the 14, where I would try to roll one way, but then pull, side stick too hard, and then I'll start rolling the other way.
Yeah.
Roger, guys. Very good. Very interesting fight. I've never, to be honest, seen much like that before, but fine. We're going to crack on with the third fight.
want to say, going into this, I'm thinking that I should probably hand Penguin some Vaseline before we go into this.
More jump.
But
So-
that's the only comment I want to make.
The Squiddle is very fast. Very fast. Mach 1.2. And we've got a more traditional 470 here for Penguin. Send them on their merry way. And this is guns. Yes, this is guns only still. So one thing we know about the Tomcat is she will not turn at Mach 1.3. So that was very ambitious. But zap! Up they go. Okay. So 15's going over the top. Quite sure Squiddle's doing kind of halfway house by the looks of it.
Hey, Cap, why don't you turn on the plane trails? Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Small tail is nice to see what's kind of happening.
Yep, that makes sense.
And Alt-Enter is full screen.
I'll leave it now because I've done the others.
The only reason I went vertical there because I fought against Squirtle before and I know he likes to go vertical.
Yes, he does.
So I thought I'd use the thruster weight at the 15 just to try and keep up with him.
Perfectly usable tactic. Know your opponent.
But then,
Exploit
obviously,
his weaknesses and
So the interesting thing here is how, I mean, I know Squiddle's got a lot more speed, but positionally, you've perfectly neutralised each other out, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble at this altitude, like Penguin mentioned,
Yes, you
actually
are.
maneuvering the plane.
You're at 30,000 feet in a Tomcat. That does not work.
Yes.
F-15 does, strangely.
I should have gotten my wing sweep probably full forward here manually to get the maneuvering flaps
Yeah,
out
that
because
would
my Mach is high, so my wings are pretty far back.
Oh, yeah, I see. You're at max.
So, but I messed up my bind for manual wing forward.
Oops.
I only had wing back, so I couldn't stick my wings out without pulling the lever itself, and I didn't feel like doing that because I had an F-15 to keep my eyes on.
More
So,
jump.
but yeah,
I mean,
so that was a mistake.
We're in this classic scenario here, we're on this death spiral where neither can get a lead, neither can get a snapshot. So you're just going to, and you're neutralising each other out because you've got the same turn rate on average. So I think we're probably going down to the ground, are we?
No, different turn rates. He's way slower.
Yes.
His turn circle is really tiny, and I'm having trouble pulling around on him.
Yep. So you're 3,000 feet radius, give or take. He's down to 2,000.
Right now we're doing some pretty heavy maneuvering, going downhill, pulling G's as many as we can, I guess, without stalling the plane. Getting pretty low energy, I would say, in terms of kinetic
So
energy.
you're kind of stuck in this scenario, aren't you? You have to pull hard. You want speed, but you have to pull hard to stop the guy getting a shot on you. So you're both in this really awkward scenario where you're pulling back as much as you dare before you stall, and you know you've got to keep the nose down so you don't stall.
At this point, I'm also thinking I probably want to get this low so I can actually use my wings.
Roger. I noticed the F-15 is maintaining a really big angle of attack, near 30 degrees.
that's 15's advantages. You want to. That's what I was trying to do anyway. Keep him pulling those really high alpha turns just to try and get him to drop one of those wings. If he does that, then he's screwed. So
He's managed to keep his speed, which is quite hard to maintain in that aeroplane. This harshness of manoeuvre. Almost got on his 6 here, but he does have F-15's in a better position. Let's see what Squiddle's going to do. Probably put his nose down a bit more. And he's ramped the alpha up to 30. You're at 30. Oh, almost got that ball sight on him. Not quite. And it's just going to go on like this. And so the guy, the lower guy is going to have the disadvantage, right? Because he's going to hit the ground first. And he'll be the one that gets killed.
In theory. Yes.
Speeds are equal. Almost got that vector on him there. Not
I'm
quite.
definitely losing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in trouble.
Okay, and our altitude, where's our altitude? 3,000 feet. Would not want to be in the blues position right now because this guy's only 90 degrees behind him now. And is about to run out 1,000 feet. And that's it. That's a red win unless you can pull something out the bag. Because you can't
It's
put your nose
interesting
down
you
now.
decided this was the good fight, Bear, because the last one I remember shooting at F-15 multiple times.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really really interesting to see this kind of neutral circle going around. I rarely get to see it. You guys probably see it all the time. That's just an easy kill at that point. There's nothing that guy could do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good, guys. So I mean, that was
Would
a
it be?
one.
Would it be a major issue to just rewind a bit to show the little piece of the previous fight?
Roger, we'll go and get that.
Was he going to screw with?
No, we'll just add that in now, just to have a quick look. So I'm gonna just make sure I get it right. So at which point do you want me to?
No, it's really not a big deal. I lost this one too. I got shot and died, but it's an interesting vertical one circle fight that occurs at one point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a matter of thrust to weight and your ability to maintain lift at low speeds.
So this is the next one. So we haven't got a fancy kind of video of it, but this is Penguin going over the top again, and this is Squiddle going kind of 45 degrees again. Which is fine. We'll play this one through at full speed.
Now I put Squirtle in the top 10 of best dogfighters in DCS, and he's a fantastic dogfighter. He's in that top percentile where they can read things like, oh, that plane is stalling, I should do this, I shouldn't do that, which is a level that's beyond the majority of people watching this video and fighting type thing. But which is fantastic, and it's great to have him part of the team, and that we love that. But most of us don't recognize. We're more worried about trying to get the shot and trying to get nose on than, oh, the opponent is stalling, let's do something about it.
Well, he's managed to get behind the... No, he hasn't. Nearly. That's going to be a... Oh, almost got a shot on him there. That could have been a kill. That could have been a potential kill.
There were a few in this, I think.
You know what he's going to struggle with? He's going to struggle with his roll rate now. He's down at... He's going to have wings out now, and he's going to have to start rolling against this F-15, right? Like we're seeing here. That's going to be a major problem. Penguin's over the top at 80 knots again. That thing just drops back into control. Oh, it was giving 6 away. That will do.
Yeah, I think that's where I lost him in this first fight.
Yeah, that happens. You see how quickly that F-15 got its speed back.
Mm-hmm.
The F-14 just cannot do that.
Can't do it. Yeah, no, can't get that kind of speed back.
You can help it. I think you can force... If you come in diving, you can force the wings back. Because you don't need the wings that much if you're diving. But, you know, it's all stuff you've got to be doing.
The thing about putting the wings back is you still need to be able to fly, right? So you got to generate lift. And so what happens when you fold the wings back is you force the plane to do a higher angle of attack, which creates drag.
I suppose. There's a lovely brake check here. Brake check. Purposeful brake check. It's just done a snap turn, isn't it? All surfaces. Look at that.
So here's something that... This is a really good example of the F-15's ability to reaccelerate. So I accelerate out of it. So obviously he dumped a ton of energy. I accelerate out. I try to climb.
Burners back on.
I do not get away.
It's amazing, isn't it? Look at him. It's just going up like Saturn V rocket. Accelerating. I can't think of any other plane that can do that.
He's shooting at me, which is annoying. I'm a mile away and there's bullets coming at me.
It's an absolute missile, the F-15.
So I was like, oh, this is alright. He's too slow. I'll be okay.
He's already catching up.
There's an F-15. Well, he's inside my turn circle again, so I'm not getting away from him. Realistically speaking, you'd probably just run away at this point in a real fight. Just run. But it's not an option, clearly.
No, not in this, no.
So I've lost at this point.
Roger. Okay.
So
yeah, you're just dead. I can see there's not much you can do that. Okay, guys. Very good. We're going to move on to our next official fight now. Stand by.
done a lot of changes to the 14 since it's come out, in terms of performance. And I remember
Apollo Kingston.
just a few months ago, the 14 was, God tier, right?
Yeah.
So, and the F-15 was competitive, but if you flew the F-14 right, it was, it wasn't competitive enough. And I'm really glad that they finally made the adjustments, so you can't put flaps down at 350 knots and just pull. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there were turn rates. We were seeing turn rates in the game that were literally equivalent or very similar to Eurofighter Typhoons and stuff like modern day Eurofighters, and it was ridiculous on a F-14 that it weighs 80,000 pounds or something like that. It's crazy. I mean, that's an over exaggeration. I don't think it always weighs that much, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I just wanted to do that.
So what they've done is they've nerfed it a bit. Basically, it's getting a bit too good.
I don't want to call it nerfing. They've made it more realistic.
Works with me. Yeah, no, absolutely. So maybe it's not the king of the castle anymore. Maybe that's what we're going to see here. Guys, this is the first Fox 2 fight. We've done the guns. So we've got Apollo coming in at 380 knots and Kingston at 500 knots. So a vast difference. Vertical from the 15. Going down for the 14. One thing I was always taught in the 14 is to always go over the top. Which has served me okay so far. The rare times I actually fly in close combat. 14 is, sorry, the 15 is done its usual thing of going to 80 knots. Apollo's just going around the edge. An incredibly slow turn rate of 8 degrees per second. That's pre-flaring, but there's no need. Kingston's trying to get his F-15 back under control. So this is where the F-14 should be taking advantage, right? Kingston stalled his aeroplane and he's now tumbling pretty much. So this 14 needs to be capitalising. But it's not, it's only doing 11 degrees per second. It's going to take all day to turn around that. But that's still the F-14's fight. I reckon that could drop down. Still just kind of dazing around at 11 degrees per second. Here comes Kingston. 370 knots. Again, the F-14 is just mill powering around at 10 degrees per second. Kingston's going to nearly double that.
Kingston, very experienced in the F-14. Some experience in the F-15.
It's throwing it about like a crazy thing. And it's working. F-14 is coming alive now, but I think that's going to be too late. Head on. And head on, I'm always going to favour the 15 for the reasons we've talked about. Oh, it's missiles. Sorry, I completely forgot. Oh, probably outside fuse time here. Yep, so they probably had no attempt at tracking. Some flares from Kingston. Apollo's got his game. Apollo's finally got his game on. He's really pulling now. After 6, 22 degrees a second. He's always gonna win. Or is he? No, can't quite get down there.
Did you not have a shot there, Apollo?
I think he's got lost.
I think I lost him at this point.
Okay, it's just
the bow.
Yeah, the amazing cockpit.
Yep.
That is an issue. That is an issue.
It's also worth mentioning I'm not a good representative to fly the 14 because I don't know what the hell I'm doing with it.
Yeah, but
I've got a meeting I got to go to, guys. I'll see you later.
Squirrel.
Sorry.
Yeah, but we have to equal everything out, we have to put the good fighters and swap it in and out. And like we declared at the beginning, we can't just have the good fighter in the F-14 all the time. We've got to equal it out because we're looking at airframes here, not how good the pilots are. So we have to equal it out. I mean, yes, what the internet's going to say is, oh, I could have done much better. I've seen a really good F-14 pilot, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get a really good F-14 pilot versus an average F-15 pilot. We're trying to equal it out so we can see that what the machine can do, as opposed to, you know, while the pilot stays equal. That's actually quite a hard thing to do.
I'm glad you said that, Cap, because there's something interesting coming up in the next fight.
Right, he just won there, and he won because Blue at the end of the just lost him in the boat, which happened. Okay, guys, let's go to next fight. Stand by.
Riker had the F-15, but he had never flown it before. This is his second scrim in the 15. The first scrim that he did in the 15, we literally told him press E, press I, press D, press C.
Wow. Okay, that's going to be interesting. He's the Tomcat guy, isn't he? Okay, that's interesting. I mean, again, we have to make everything even. So
he had it bound, but so in this one, it's his second time he's flying it. We are literally telling him which buttons to press to turn on radar, turn on cannons, turn on, switch weapons.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got his speed right.
So
turn. Yeah.
We put him in an uncomfortable zone.
Roger. It's probably about to prove how easy the F-15 can be. It looks after its pilot, the F-15. Vectors are equal. You're probably going to both get a shot. Both are pre-flared at the same time. This is a proper textbook flight. I like this. Missile off from red. Probably just easier to lock in an F-15. Slightly. And it never tracked anyway. Or tracked the flares. Are they going to get a second missile off? Ah, straight to guns. Very good. Good to see that. I don't think we had any hits. So we're going to both go down. Penguin's a bit squirmy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the way. Again, with the 14, I tried pulling a decent bit of nose and alpha, sorry.
Yep.
And you just lose the wings completely.
Yeah, the wings are gone, and it's rolling now, and you've got no real control until it finally puts its nose down, which is going to take a while. You can see he's basically doing nothing now. It's just sitting in midair. There's not much he can do. F-15's perfectly under control. Lining up for a shot. That's a thing. That's one thing we've discovered today. The F-15, I mean, whether this is realistic or not, I don't know. I've got no way of knowing. But the F-15 works perfectly from 80 knots to 800 knots, right? Nothing up there upsets it, phases it, puts it in a spin. It's always in control. F-14 has a kind of band of control. You go below that, it spins. You go above that, the wings fall off. So, in DCS. Okay, so this looks like a pretty dumb thing. And that goes back to the thing. If saying pilot skill is equal, i.e., you don't have an F-14 expert, that's problematic. Pre-flaring from Penguin. I think Red has a missile. He's got perfect position. Biding his time. Probably put a missile up his chuff. F-14 stalled. Trying to dodge those. I guess you're trying to jink those bullets. Zap, 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 zap. Not much F-14 can do now.
Yeah, I could have took it up potentially before that, before it turned back into his turn, but again, it's just the sheer F-15's ability just to put its nose on target. It just doesn't really care.
Absolutely. Right. Done. Anything for that before we go to the next one, guys? Hey! .480, F-15 450, F-14B, everything looking pretty sensible. Missiles again. Big pull from the F-15 going over the top. He knows he can't really get it in trouble. He can't lose control, so he's just going to half stick all the way around. Penguin's going much more calm and considered around the side and down. And the F-14's got plenty of speed, so it can get its nose up, and they can do a kind of 50-50 head on here, maybe. You see this pre-flares coming out exactly on time. Next will be a couple of missiles coming out. Perfectly in time, guys. Zap missile. I think it's slightly easier to get a missile lock in the F-15, just being FC3, Miss. Another one from the F-15, but not from the F-14, but the flares have taken care of it. And neutralised. And probably into guns now. Penguin's right on the edge of that F-14, and you can see his wings rolling now as the wings go horrible things, because it just refuses to fly that slow. But he's got control back of it. And he's back in control. He's got the nose down. They're possibly lost sight. I'm not sure. No, all looks good. F-15 nose is in a better position, but his speed is very low. Pre-flaring from there, but the F-15 doesn't actually have any missiles left. But it doesn't matter. It's just good practice. And he kind of gave you 6 up there. Look, that way you kind of come down there instead of towards him. Was that a loss of sight? Yeah,
I lost sight there as well. And I actually didn't see that second missile come off his row, so I thought he still had one left.
Roger. We're going to see. We're going to look at the thrust and acceleration differences here, because you've got delta plus 300 knots. He's coming from 200 knots. But I can't see much that F-14 can do now. And he's dead. Okay, guys.
Now, please understand that we have nothing against the F-14. We tried to be as unbiased as possible to make it as fair as possible by putting in people that have never flown it to people that have flown it regularly. We have no doubt, I have no doubt in my mind that there are experienced Tomcat pilots out there that know what they're doing and will win the average or the majority of their fights against most opponents because they know their machine and they're flying their machine and they can really exploit it to the utmost. But what I think we managed to discover in this session is that somebody that has never flown the F-15 can use it to kill the Tomcat, whether it's against Fox 2s or guns only, very quickly. It's an unfortunate misconception that happened to happen. Every single person that I asked that took part in this, which was Apollo, Penguin, Kingston, Riker, Squirtle, and Cap himself, I asked, who's going to do better, F-14 or the F-15? And not one of us, including myself, said that the F-15 would win this.
And that's because we've all seen the videos
matchup
of expert F-14 video thrashing everything. So you think that's going to be the best jet?
No, I know there are going to be people that are upset about that result, and they're going to say that we're wrong. But we did our absolute best to try and show it as unbiased as possible, and that's the result that we got.
Roger, that's what I asked for at the end of the day. Other two boys, anything to add to that?
Two things to remember as well is that the old videos where the F-14 was completely thrashing things, that was the change to the flaps thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also the F-15 is an FC3 aircraft, whereas obviously the F-14 is full fidelity.
Yeah,
so there's a big difference.
Yeah, I just got to say I was surprised given the kind of community legend of the 14, but yeah, I guess they made some changes to it and it's not as good anymore.
Same here, guys. Same here. Right.
It's still a great plane in BVR, and it's still got its bonuses and benefits.
One thing to add as well, I don't think these high, I mean, this is how we need to do it, obviously, but I don't think the high altitude merges suit the F-14 very well. I think it does like being down low from what I've seen, and it's one of those planes that seems to really struggle when going up. But that's how it is.
Happy to redo it at a lower altitude.
We've got to treat all of these things equally. We can't just favour the F-14 because it's weak here and weak there. Everyone starts 20,000 feet. If it's crap at that, sorry, it's its fault, not ours. So we'll carry on as we are, I think. And that's it, guys. I mean, we've not seen a big enough thrashing as that. Now, we've discussed it, and at the end of that, we think that there probably will be some stink kicked up from the community. Community does not like Tomcats losing. Community does not like F-15s winning. So what we suggest in this case is that we're going to ask you guys, we're going to give you this exact mission so you can replicate this perfectly. You'll find it in the video description of this video you're watching. Download that, get a buddy, and you go and do the fights with it to the rules that we're about to say. Send in the ACMI tag view file to us. Ideally to Bear would be nice, and then we will discuss the findings with that. And here are the rules.
We're going to paste a link to the mission in the video. Viewers can download it and find a friend and do 8 or 12 rounds. The reason why there's 8 or 12 rounds is if there's no elastic override or paddle switch, you only need to do 8. If there is an elastic override, do it in the last 4. Do 4 guns only and 4 hob, and send us the track. Send me the tack view or send you the tack view. Doesn't really matter. But there's strict rules. Pilots must alternate each round. They mustn't alternate. They mustn't change the mission in any way, and the tack view must be unedited as a single tack view.
We also later in the series, based on the tack views that you send through, we'll consider bringing some of you guys, the value viewers, in to kind of prove that a plane is better by kind of one-on-one against us. Do you want to go into that a bit, Bear?
We want to show an unbiased opinion on the planes. If you guys want to challenge us at the end, we're happy to accept that challenge.
Good. We'll speak about that later. I hope you enjoyed that otherwise, and see you later.